This week, we've got special guest number 111 Steve Mueller on the show to talk about his plans for the 2020 season and his new RZR Pro XP. So strap in as we bring you up to the race pace. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Race Pace, sponsored by CW Motorsports. I'm Doug.
And I'm Chad.
And there's rumblings that racing will be starting soon, although we haven't seen any direct evidence of that yet other than Texplex. But once again, in our Meet Your Local Racer series, we've got something even better than racing. We've got Steve Mueller, who has been a frequent guest on the Eminent Waste of Time podcast that preceded this, and now has been foolish enough to dip his toes back in the water here on Race Pace. But Steve, I understand you're still kind of on lockdown over there in Illinois, just a little bit.
Yeah, I think we're the worst in the entire U.S. right now, if I keep seeing the headlines correct. So I think they're saying some businesses and restaurants and bars can't even open until end of June.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, we're on like the 9 to 5 month or 5 to 9 month plan over here.
You guys do seem to make a lot of headlines for the severity of the lockdowns. Yeah, I mean, if you sneak over the state line, no one's going to stop you. We're right next door.
That's all I'm waiting on. So I'm going to get a race over there, and I'll head over.
Well, you might as well just drag your camper over here. I got fiber 1 gig right to my door. Just back your camper right down up here, work from there. Go play on the short course when you're not working.
You'll be doing the state a favor by leaving the state.
That's very true. That's a very reasonable offer there, Chad. I'll keep that in mind.
I mean, I got it's not paved, but it's gravel section right there. Just back on in.
You got a 50 amp hookup over there?
I can poke one right through the wall right there.
I was going to say, we know guys that can make that happen.
There you go. That's awesome.
So, Steve, before this whole thing got shut down, you did get a little bit of time. Actually, let me back up just a little bit. The previous 2 seasons, you've been racing in a Pro XP, or not a Pro XP, an XP Turbo, and this year you have a Pro XP. And I know you don't have a ton of seat time because, unfortunately, everything got shut down, but I'm dying to know, what do you think about the difference between the two of them?
There's no comparison.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's completely night and day. It handles night and day different. I mean, on the good side, it's just they did a phenomenal job. I know some people say, "Oh, it's kind of chalked up to the wheelbase and stuff like that." And I think you guys kind of poked at me a little bit last week.
No,
but, it's a heavy machine. It's 1,779 pounds. Estimated from the factory. It literally says estimated in quotes. So, I mean, I know they did some heavier wall tubing on the frames and did some more gusseting and stuff like that, but it handles like no comparison. When I got to test drive that thing when it was released up at Polaris last August at the dealer show, I felt faster in that car than in my current race car, and it was undoubtedly true. So really excited to I'm not going to say it's the X3 killer like everybody's hoping for, but
sure.
It definitely, I think, is on a more level playing field now. I really do.
Yeah, because you got to spend a little bit of time in Devon's X3 at the Heartland Challenge. I mean, you spent a solid 4 hours in the seat.
More than a little time, yeah.
And it is very comparable to that. Actually, in that week leading up to Heartland, I had Devon's car here, obviously, at my test field and stuff at my house. And bone stock in the Pro XP with just my aim on it, comparing aim to aim, I was 2 seconds faster bone stock off the showroom floor in the Pro XP than I was in Devon's car on my test track here. So that's a good sign. However, that's not at full race build. I mean, There's obviously a lot more weight there and stuff on the race build, but and I really honestly haven't gone back and rechecked that now that it's at full pace. I've been working on a lot of bugs trying to get this thing to where it needs to be. That's what I've been doing most of the time in the downtime here. It's been a rough one. So
yeah, well, I mean, it's a new machine. People are putting out new parts, and a lot of the parts that you got were either prototype or just off of prototype. Yeah. So I mean, there's going to be just things to sort out, and honestly, as painful as it is to say it, it's the best thing that could have happened because you're not finding these out in the middle of races.
Exactly.
Yeah, you really could have been in for a world of hurt on some of this stuff, and well, just disappointment, really. I mean, it's tough to go pay a race fee, drive 4 or 5 hours, enter, and then have something silly go wrong. And it's just the nature of any new race machine, but then a brand new design on top of a new race machine that you're trying to build. It's just going to take some time to flush it out.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm experiencing. They changed the geometry on this, so you can't take like XP Turbo trailing arms and throw them on, and A arms and throw them on. It's the geometry is different, the mounting is different, so everybody's having to basically go back and make new stuff, and that's why the market just doesn't have a lot of Pro XP stuff yet, because a lot of that stuff's changed, and that's kind of what I ran into. I'll just say one of the things I'm working with right now is L&W Fab. They did all my suspension for me, and I've had it for a while now. And one of the things that I've been working at, one of the bugs, is the stock lower A arms on that machine that it shipped with from the factory were 1 inch. Well, the upper A arms were 1.5 inches from the factory. So when L&W went and did their R&D and made their arms, they said, well, this is odd. We're going to make 1.5 inches up top and 1.5 inches lower. Well, I was lucky enough to find out that the sway bar link was contacting the lower A arm when I bottomed the car out on a G out. Now, they went out and tested, and even still this day, their shop car had no signs of the sway bar link contacting the lower A arm. But I also lowered my car. While most trail guys are out there racing their cars, I lowered the car to get even more center of gravity down and for a race. And sure enough, it was contacting. So I just Friday afternoon got new arms, and they basically added a bend in there where the sway link goes to try to correct that. And then I also had to get some kind of custom sway links made that shortened it to keep the sway bar away from it. So it's just stuff like that. It's just been time consuming, and like you said, some of that stuff was prototype. I was the second Pro XP with all the L&W Fab components on it. So it was, just working through everything, and it's kind of what I've been fighting.
Yeah. Steve Mueller, professional guinea pig.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, go ahead, Jen.
What series are you looking at running this year? Because, let's assume it all opens up like normal here in June, July.
Yeah.
What are you looking at running?
That I was going to run Pro Rock and AXCC, and we did get one Pro Rock race in back it was the very last weekend of February, like the first day of March or something. And that race I took the car right off jacks literally that week, and had a hose clamp loose and blew the upper radiator line off. I was actually down at the motor off the thermostat. It blew off, and I lost all my coolant a quarter of a lap in, 7 minutes in. So instead of toasting the motor or anything like that, just called it was done. All my coolant was laying on the ground, and so it's had about 7 minutes of racing on it. So, but yeah, Pro Rock and AXCC is what I really was my goal this year. But I don't know how it's going to pan out, because I'm fearful with all the postponements and everybody moving. We're going to end up on top of each other, towards the fall or whatever, how that happens. And it's going to get real messy for a schedule. So that's my goal, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to obtain that now with all the stuff going on.
Yeah.
Can definitely understand that. Kind of along those same lines, as you're looking at your past few years of racing, and then, like we said, you actually got to race an X3 back in the Heartland Challenge last year and did really well in a different machine. Definitely, it seemed to affect your driving style, being in a lower little more race-tuned machine, and now that you got this Pro XP, do you have any kind of personal goals for yourself in terms of, I mean, I know you like to finish. That's first and foremost. You like to finish a race regardless, but didn't know if you had any personal goals or things you wanted to push yourself a little bit on.
I really like to, the finish thing is my top priority at all times, but this year I kind of set a goal to myself to actually win a race overall, which, you know, with the Can-Am out there, that's hard to do. And I say that because if you look at some of the ratios, it's like 6-1, 8-1. I think AXEC last year it was 12 or 13-1, you know, Can-Am to Polaris. So I think that would be awesome. Does it happen? Absolutely. It still happens today. But I really would love to go out and win a race, especially if the ratio is that high.
Sure.
So, I mean, it would be cool, but like I said, at the end of the day, my priority is to finish, and you got to do that in order to win anyway. So,
very true.
So the other question is, last year I was co-dog for your lovely wife during a powder puff race where she may or may not have blown apart a U-joint.
She did.
She already asked me this year if I was going to be willing to do that again. I was like, absolutely, I'm totally down for that. And then I thought, I wonder if Steve's going to be okay with that in his brand new baby.
Yeah, well, for a while there, that race was going to be the first race. Until it got canceled at the last minute. That looked like it was going to happen. So I was like, this is crazy. You're going to finish a race in this car before I even get to. And I had to go back and because even the seats in this thing are completely different. So in order to get actual race seats in it, I had to cut the frame, and Kevin Spangler welded in custom made like seat brackets and stuff. So once that was announced, I had to hurry up and go figure out how to move the seat forward like 12 inches for her, which I was able to figure out, but then unfortunately got canceled at the last minute. So
because she's got little legs and you've got long legs.
Yeah, exactly. They haven't figured out how to raise the pedals yet in one of these, but give Polaris time. I'm sure that's coming. But they figured out the steering wheel. But
because you are easily a full foot taller than her.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, she's looking forward to it. I told her this time you cannot land on the gas pedal. She's like, well, you didn't tell me last time. I said, yeah, I did, and everybody else did too. So.
I told her one more time after she did it, and she's like, what was that clunking noise? I'm like, well, that's a broken part, and you can't do that again.
Yeah, we can blame the co-driver, right? Because, I mean, that's what they're there for.
Yeah, you're actually babysitting. That's what you're doing.
I was going through the entire checklist in my mind, and I think I hit most of them except for that one because it wasn't really occurring to me that she was going to get off the ground at any point. And then when it actually happened, I was like, probably should have mentioned that too. But to her credit, the rest of the race, she never came down under power. Like, she learned it and was good from there on out. I mean, it doesn't do much for you after the part's broken, but maybe it's in the mind for next time.
For sure.
That poor RZR.
She
that thing actually held up pretty good. I mean,
yeah, I was gonna say, honestly,
I mean, as much as we're talking about the Pro XP and how great it is, the old RZRs like my style and what Steve raced, they actually were pretty good machines.
Well, and in a race situation, I mean, bring on the Polaris, people saying I'm a Polaris hater here, but the XP turbos are really punching above their weight. I mean, they're outclassed by the X3s, and for the ones, but you look at the way they hang in there and the durability and where they're placing, considering the disadvantage they're at design-wise, they're impressive. They're solid machines, and they were built with different intentions from a blank sheet of paper, and the XP honestly was dealing with a much older sheet of paper. I mean, it's just the way it is.
Yeah, that chassis was from 2014.
Yeah,
that was when it was originally designed. Yeah,
and really, when they did that, they were designing a vehicle that could be trail ridden for the most part, and I mean, like it wasn't designed as a race vehicle per se. Like, I mean, I'm sure they had that in the back of their mind, but that wasn't its sole focus.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the X3, I mean, they really leaned heavy towards that race side of it. You just don't see a ton of them that are not highly modified out on the trails.
Yeah, my dealer, he picked up Can-Am well over a year ago now, and he says the same thing all the time. You know, if you go to a riding park, go look what's out there. Now, don't get me wrong, Can-Am they're doing okay. You know, they're picking up market share, they're selling, but
Right.
it's still like out when you go to a riding park right now, it's still like the opposite of what we're seeing on there. Oh, there go my lights. It's still the opposite of what we have on the race scene. It's like 5-1, you know, at a riding park, if not more. You know, just on the reverse. So
Yeah, especially when we head down south somewhere like Louisiana, Southern Mud Riders, they're all Polarises. I mean, there's a couple of the only Can-Ams you see are the Defenders. I mean, you're not seeing every once in a while you'll see a built X3, but you're probably talking one or two of them, and 100 Polaris machines.
Yeah, and I don't like to talk bad about them. It's still a good platform. Each and every one of them has their pluses and negatives, and it's just at the end of the day, we win as the consumer.
Exactly.
When they start competing, we win, and that's exactly where it's at right now. I mean, Can-Am's got the 195 horsepower right now. I mean, they started competing, and who wins at the end of the day? We do,
Exactly.
Right.
That's
why
why
yours is 185 horse, and really, you're not looking at much difference. I've seen the flat-out drag races between the Pro XP and the X3s. There's not any real difference to them. I mean, a little bit. They may be slightly faster, but a noticeable difference, not much.
With the Pro XP, it's really starting to boil down to power versus weight, with it being so much heavier, even directly from the factory. I think it's almost 200 pounds, something like that. It's approaching on almost 200 pounds heavier from the factory, than the X3. It's coming down to power to weight now. And I wouldn't be surprised if, their next move is, the same thing. It's going to be more weight because they're strengthening and adding wall thickness and stuff like that. But who's to say at the end of the day?
Because you see every guy, well, almost every guy that races an X3, they're putting a stronger bulkhead parts in them, and I mean, they're having to reinforce things. Whereas I haven't seen that much yet with the Pro XPs. I think they've already kind of gone down that road.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I wish I had a picture of it, but like where the sway bar mounts on the Pro XP, I swear to you, like the mounts themselves on the frame, I swear are a 1/4 inch thick. I wish I could take a tape measure and verify it, but it is thick.
Wow.
Like it is really. I was shocked because, and I know in the past they had trouble with that at least on the rear.
Yeah, in the rears they did that.
It would rip out of the frame. It would tear the frame. So aftermarket companies came out with gusset kits and stuff like that. So I was really shocked, and in doing some of this testing and stuff that I've been doing on it, I actually removed the sway bar, and I was like, wow, I could not believe how thick the mounts were on the frame in the front of all places, where that was. So I know the RS1s, I've heard actually Barry, I think Barry and Bannon had some trouble with theirs in some cracks or something that they found over the winter. So that made me kind of nervous, but I don't know how much of the Pro XP frame was based off the RS1 frame and whatnot. I know a lot of people try to compare them closely, but it's just the difference that they put into this chassis is just insane. So,
well, and a lot of people are saying, well, Polaris was looking at the X3 and decided they had to do something. And honestly, I look at the way this is built, and I don't get that impression. I get the impression that Polaris is looking at the the XP Turbo, and they're looking at the RS1, and they're looking at their previous machines. They're looking at where they had failures, and they basically decided to build a next generation machine and said, okay, where were we failing before? What can we do to improve that? What can we do to make a better Polaris, possibly more race oriented machine? I don't get the impression they were looking a lot at the X3. It was more of a evolution of in-house testing and where are we weak, where can we fix it, what can we do to keep our machine moving forward the way we think it should be built.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. And they even told us, like at the dealer show and stuff like that, they're actually taking a lot of their cues from the automotive industry And I think that's pretty evident when you sit in a Pro XP in the cockpit of that thing, because they literally took a 3D scan of the driver and built the entire machine around it. And like you look at the Pro XP, at least on the Ultimate, you've got steering wheel controls now. You have a center console just like you do in your car for storage. I mean, even the glove box is, you could really tell that they're trying and taking a lot of cues from the automotive industry, and they'll even tell you that. So I think that, combined with going back to their checklist, and they told us the same thing, they had things on the checklist that they were going back to fix, from the previous generation, and they did it. Like the belt cooling on this, they did a really, really good job on this thing. It's much, much more comparable to what we had been seeing, at least on the X3 side, for belt temperatures, and I think they actually maybe done a little bit better job from all the testing and everything I've done with it so far. It's the temperatures and the belt cooling was one of the things that they went back to go fix, and I think so far they've done a really good job from what I've seen. So
that's a huge win, because there were a few races that were a little more strenuous that you had a few problems with belt temps and that sort of thing. So that's big.
Yeah, to see over 200 degrees on this now is, I've purposely seen it, doing clutch tuning and stuff and having it wrong, but it's really hard to get it over that temperature now, at least with the temperatures we've had ambient so far this year. But
yeah,
that's not to say we don't have 110 degree race day that it doesn't happen, but yeah.
Right, but I mean, when I was with you, I forget what race it was at, but we saw 240 on one day, and it wasn't a hot day.
Yeah, most of the time, at least on the old car, I was over 220 degrees almost constantly, even with the blower running. Just the way it was.
And you look at the X3s, they were running 170, 180, and they really weren't worried about things. And that's a big difference in the life of the belt and just reliability, being able to finish.
Yep, and that's what I'm seeing basically now on those new Pro XP. Even bone stock, the first thing I did to this thing before, right off the showroom floor, was put the aim on it, and that was simply because it was going to STM for R&D for them to build clutches for. So they basically had a belt temp sensor and data logging right out of the gate, and just test driving it. I was seeing temperatures in the 140s, but that was in the middle of winter. So, I mean, it was, I think that day that I ran it for an hour and a half, I was kind of trying to break in the motor a little bit, take it easy on it, and then started pushing it. I couldn't get the belt over, I think it was 146 was the average that day. Now, given it was 30 degrees out, but
still,
yeah, I could take that all day long. So,
well, Steve, if people want to follow you, keep up with racing once it resumes, see how the new Pro XP is doing, that kind of stuff, where's the best place for them to do that?
I try to do all the racing stuff on Instagram as S Mueller 111. I do post a little bit on Facebook, but I kind of did Instagram for the racing side of it. So definitely there, and I do have Facebook as well. But like I said, I try to use Instagram more for the racing side.
All right. Well, we do want to say a big thank you to all of our sponsors. Of course, CW Motorsports, our title sponsor for this year. We've also got Watch Communications on board, who hosts our podcast and our website. And if you live in rural parts of Ohio or Illinois or Indiana, they can probably hook you up with internet access if there's nothing else available where you happen to be. We've also got 834 Powder Coat on board, and Spangs Fab, who is probably busily trying to churn out brand new Pro XP parts because, like you said, they all have to be rebuilt, retooled. It's a clean sheet of paper. You can find us on the web at eminentperformance.com. You can find the video version of this on YouTube/Eminent Performance. We're also active on Instagram and Facebook /Eminent Racing. And if you want the audio version, just go ahead and look us up on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, any place you normally find podcasts. You'll probably find this mess as well just by searching for Eminent Performance. And if it's not too much trouble, we would really appreciate it if you'd leave us a like or a comment or something disparaging, whatever you want to say. Any attention is better than no attention, so it helps us grow, keep producing this show, and move it out to a wider audience.
Yep.
Chad, anything on your end?
No, just I got out to practice on the short course some, and
nice.
Actually, I was expecting it to be way more wet than it was. There was only a couple wet spots. I was actually rolling some dust in a few places. So, hopefully get some racers out here to get some seat time and do that kind of thing here in the near future.
Nice. That would be awesome. Well, Steve, we really appreciate your time, and looking forward to following your racing season once everything resumes, because there will be something this year. We've got faith in that. So, but thanks for taking a few minutes and coming on with us here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it. The bottom of the barrel has came down.
No. Best for last, man.
Right. Yeah, there we go.
All right, and everybody else out there, we appreciate you riding along with us, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks, guys.